Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 90-day commitment series with Angie and myself. Today, we're going to be working on budgeting, how to create that budget, but more importantly, how to use that budget to find a little extra cash flow. We're going to give you some ideas of maybe once you collect all of your bills and expenses, how to possibly look at some ways of lowering those bills and expenses. So, Angie, if you want to explain to them kind of what a budget is first and kind of why it's important.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Shay. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in once again for our 90-day commitment. You may be thinking, oh my goodness, this is taking forever. But you know what? It's been our entire lives to get to this point. So it's not without wondering, how long is this going to take to get right down to the nitty gritty? We want this to be a long-term plan for you, not to just throw you into the fire and hope you survive. No, we're taking you by the hand and helping you out. So today we are going into budgeting. So what is a budget and how do we do this? So a budget is a plan that helps you manage your money. It helps you figure out how much money you get, how much you spend, and how much you save. Now, I know that S word, that last one there, some people may be thinking that's not in my vocabulary, but we're going to help you get to that point. Sometimes when you look at where things are coming in and out, we can just help you look at how that comes in and out and maybe massage that a little bit. So when we're looking at your income and your savings and expenses, some of these items may include fixed expenses, which are typical things like your rent, your mortgage, maybe car insurance if you have a vehicle. If you don't, no worries. Your utility bills, such as your phone bill, your heating, your cooling, things like that. And then there's also some things like your variable expenses. Those would include things like your fuel. Again, like if you have a vehicle, you're going to be putting either gas, or if you have one of those fancy pants Tesla vehicles, then you're going to be using electricity. So things like that, or your groceries. But we also want to include something called fun money. This budget, the whole idea behind a budget is not to make sure that, or not to have you so scrimped in on such a strict schedule that you don't have anything in any room for fun. No, we need to make sure that you have some money for going out, say to a restaurant, or some clothing items, or non-essential shopping. So when people hear the word budget, like I said, they automatically think about restricted spending or being broke. But a monthly budget does not have to mean that. It doesn't need to mean that you need to be so tight that you can't even move. It's simply a tool to figure out how you can get to reach your financial goals. So why is this important? Well, as we've said several times, we rarely fail, or we rarely plan to fail, we fail to plan. And so this is part of that procedure, part of that process. So a budget can easily plan for and track how much money you will spend and save each month. This allows you to plan for a lot of things like establishing an emergency fund. We're going to talk about this in the coming weeks. It also is a process for creating a savings account for big purchases or investing in your financial future without having to guess about it. So it's especially important if you don't know where your money's going, you don't save regularly, you have a problem with paying off your debts. And I'm going to just stop for a moment and say, this is still a non-judgmental place. This is a safe space. We're not judging you, just like you're hopefully not going to judge me for my spending and my lack of savings. So, and it's not about, or it's important if you feel like you're being overwhelmed by your finances, if you feel like you're not in control, You want to make the most out of your money if you're planning for a major purchase or life event. You know, things ultimately will come up. And that's why having a budget is critical, because we want to make sure that when those things come up, that you're not scrambling. So this is where a budget can help you set spending limits, find ways to pay down your debt, reduce costs and save more, live within your means. We should have a great big huge star that should be in neon flashing lights, and it should be in capital bright letters, because I know in Canada for sure, many people are living outside of their means, which is why there's so much credit card debt, and why people are not even living paycheck to paycheck. They're living and hoping that their paycheck will cover their bills. It's about reducing stress, having more money for things that are important to you. So, what to consider before you start a budget? We want to think about your financial goals, identify short and long-term goals. We want to make saving for those goals part of your budget. So, what's a short-term goal? Well, that's things like paying off your credit card. No, it doesn't need to take 20, 30 years to pay off your credit card. We can make that into a short term. Reducing your weekly expenses, starting to build an emergency fund. A long-term goal may be including paying off all of your debt, saving to buy a home, a car, booking a trip, saving to have children. Maybe you're looking to go to school or looking to plan for your retirement. So we want to look at what is a need and what is a want. Yes, there is a difference. There is a difference between the two. And when I say I need a new pair of shoes, well, that might not really classify in this category, right? So it depends. If the only pair of shoes you have holes in them and you're carrying on water when you go through a puddle. If you have, perhaps like me, I'm going to say yes, I have a nice collection of shoes and footwear. So I may not need that extra pair of shoes. So knowing the difference between what your needs and wants are is key. And a need is something that is necessary, required, or essential, such as a roof over your head, clothing, food, medication. Those are all needs. So again, I'm going to go back to my shoes, not a need, as much as I want to put it into that category. A want is something that you would like. That's where my shoes fall into place, like the new heels or the new boots or, whatever. Want is something like going out to eat at a restaurant, taking a trip, having a gym membership. I see, designer shoes. There we go. This is what I mean. So needs and wants are not the same for everyone. So one person's want may be another person's need. But try to be realistic when you go through this, okay? Like, seriously, this is about doing it for the betterment of your budget, okay? And so that when that rainy day fund is becoming necessary, that you have those funds in place. And it may change over time. With that large house that you initially wanted, it may be that you're downsizing and you don't really need that large of a house anymore. So these things may change over time, but do your best as to what you need at this time. Okay, so we've delved into what's a need, what's a want. We know that it's necessary to create a budget, but how do you do it? Well, getting started with a budget plan is as simple as following these 6 steps. We need to select a budget template. Important, leave a comment and we can email that to you if you have not already got one, or if you don't know where to go to find that. We have that on file. So just leave a comment. If you have our email us. Sheyi is more than willing to do that. I'm more than willing to do that. Collect all your financial paperwork or electronic bill information. So go through your email, go through your papers, however you happen to get your bills, okay? Then you need to look at your monthly income. And that's not necessarily just from your employment, that's any income that's coming in. So that can be from the government, it could be from your side job, it could be from your hustle, it could be from wherever, right? So any money that's gonna come into your account. Establish a list of your monthly expenses. I'm gonna just make a note here that make sure that you are being honest here too, because the more honest you are with yourself, the more honest you can be with putting things on paper and getting real with your financial house and getting it in order. This is where you can go through your bank statement, look through what's coming in and out of your account. How many coffees do you go for during a week, during a day? You know, look at all of those expenses. It may be a little shocking for you. You may have a little bit of a shock value attached, but that's what this is about, is getting real. Then you want to categorize your expenses and designate spending values. And then we can adjust your budget accordingly. So, time to break it down. Selecting a budget template. Look at how pretty this is, right? That doesn't look scary at all. I mean, I could do this. This could work for me. The easiest and most efficient way to set up a budget is to use a pre-made spreadsheet. You can find this in Excel, Google Sheets. If you're familiar with Canva, they have a multitude of these available. And again, if you don't have one, you don't know where to look, this seems overwhelming to you, contact Sheyi and we will happily provide one for you. These tools, these pre-made sheets are already equipped with all the fields or most of the fields that you're going to need for your income and expenses and in a wide range of categories. When you choose a pre-made spreadsheet, it'll come with built-in formulas as well. Now, that means if you're using it in an electronic form. Keep in mind that you can print these out and you can do this manually as well. You just have to know that you need to do the math yourself. No big deal, right? So then we're going to look at alternative ways that you can do this. Now, of course, we're in a technology rage here, right? We have all these methods of technology at our fingertips. So there's different programs that you can use that will do this very, very easily for you. It integrates a lot of different programs. There's Mint, there's Coho, there's Wally. You know, there's a multitude of different ways that you can even just scan your receipts and it'll plunk it into a budget for you. So lots of different ways. And again, if you want maybe a referral for something that might work for you, let us know. I'm sure we can find one for you. So Sheyi, why don't you get right down to the nitty gritty? Let's get into the numbers game here.
Absolutely. So I remember I believe it was week 2, we said to gather up those bills, those envelopes that we maybe have just been sticking in the corner and not looking at, or just kind of saying, we'll open that never, or shredding it before you look at it. Hopefully I haven't shredded too much yet, but we are going to go through those. And once we have your budget template, it's time to collect all the paperwork, all those electronic bills, like Angie was saying, print off those credit card receipts, and let's start figuring out kind of where everything's going. I know I've been in a situation where I just got paid and I look at my account and I'm like, where did it all go? And then I look and I'm like, oh, skip the dish. Oh, I went got shoes. Oh, I went and got coffee. Oh, that's where it all went, right? So once you just are a little bit more conscious of it, you're going to realize where it's all being allocated. So grab the bank statements, pay stubs. You might want to look for your tax forms to see what your actual income is on paper. You can get your mortgage or your rental statements, utility bills, credit card statements, auto loan statements. So knowing that interest amount is sometimes important when it comes to what we're going to be talking about next week, which will be different strategies on how to pay off debt. So we want to know like the interest amounts, but as well as the actual amounts owing. So if we gather that now, when we go to next week, it's not going to be so overwhelming. So there is a method to our madness. There is a reason why we're taking you through this process. So bear with us, but you will see the method to our madness as we keep going. Student loans, as well as gathering that interest on there. And if you look at these statements and it looks like it's in gibberish, you can let us know. You can always hop on a call with us. We can schedule something and we can help you go through these documents if you're not really sure what you're looking at. So that's also, sometimes it's just nice to have some moral support while you go through this. So you're not alone. If you need help even filling out that budget sheet, you don't really know where to put the values, just let us know. Phone bills, car insurance statements, childcare expenses, and more. So during this process, you want to find as much information about your income, your fixed expenses, and your variable expenses as possible. The more thorough your budget is, the more accurate it will be, and the more beneficial it will be to you. So if you find any reoccurring expenses, those will be your fixed expenses, and anything else will be your variable, those things that fluctuate over time. So when you're calculating your monthly expenses, like Angie was saying, it can be from a full-time income, but it can also be from a side hustle or from maybe just a miscellaneous payment or a gift, or maybe you do some things on the side that come in. So add all of that up. And if there's a situation where maybe it's not a regular income, maybe it's a freelance or a seasonal work, then you should base your total monthly income on the lowest earning month. So you don't want to pretend like you always make $2,000 more or $1,000 more or $200 more if it's just a random occurrence in this month. So make sure that it's consistent, or create monthly budgets, and you'll have to recreate it each month if you're going to be very specific to that month. So just keep that in mind, depending on how much work or how intricate you want to get. So when you're establishing your list of your monthly expenses, after you have calculated your monthly income, it's time to make a list of everything that is taken away from that monthly income. So that's groceries, gas, public transportation if you don't have a vehicle, entertainment, restaurants, non-essential shopping. And it's important, like Angie was saying, don't think, oh, it's just $1.50 coffee or it's just a Tim's coffee. Like, it doesn't matter, because if you actually get a coffee a day for a year, that's over almost $1,000, right? That could be that trip that you feel like you can't afford. That could be that pair of shoes that you really wanted, but you were allocating it to coffee instead, right? So it's just a matter of paying attention to the little things, because those little things all add up to big things. Just like these little action steps you're taking, they're all going to add up to big action steps in the future, okay? Big results. So when you're categorizing your expenses and designating spending values, this is when you want to look at your fixed expenses and look at your variable expenses and document them. You can begin to categorize them within your budget as far as what they are. Are they wants? Are they needs? Are they fixed? Are they fluctuating? Maybe your hydro is always fluctuating because sometimes you forget to leave some lights on, sometimes you don't, or it's winter and it's summer, right? That bill expense can change. But what you also want to do is you want to put your goals as a priority on your budget sheet. So allocate some money to go into a savings account, allocate some money in order to pay off debt, and make sure that these individual items are in your budget sheet as well. And then what happens is if there's money left over, that's yours. That's to go spend on yourself. And you can now spend that money guilt-free because you know that everything else is allocated for and covered. So that's the whole point of what a budget sheet is so you can spend that money guilt-free and know that everything's taken care of on the back burner, right? Remember, your fixed expenses are expenses that require you to pay the same amount each month at the same time of the month, usually. And then your variable expenses are those ones that are fluctuating. So with the variable expenses, again, this is something that you actually want to use the highest bill. So don't use a small bill and say it's only 100 when sometimes it's 150, because then you go and spend your fund money and then you are $50 short. So try and give yourself a little bit more there, but also don't allocate too much there so that you're not kind of being conservative in a sense. Once your expenses are categorized, it's time to designate those spending values. So start looking through your fixed expenses, start looking through your variable expenses, and make note of how much each one is costing approximately per month. And then make note of your 3-month spending average. So if you do have 3 months worth of bills, that is also a good idea of trying to find that happy medium. So you're not going too much and you're not going too little. So now that that is all on your budget, it's time to evaluate it, right? We don't just want to write it down on a piece of paper like that was nice and we close it in a binder, we never look at it again. We have to use it. So with those expense categories, you're going to start to have a better idea of where you're at as far as your financial well-being. So what we want to get you at, and it's okay if you're not here right now, is we want to get you at a 50-30-20 budget rule. So 50% of your budget will be going towards those essential expenses. 30% will be going to those non-essential expenses. Remember, non-essential expenses can be that fun money. It can be that that going out for dinner every once in a while. It can be that coffee. You just have to allocate it on that budget and have it fall under that 30% of your income. And then that 20% we want to go towards saving and paying off debt. So if you make less money than what you're spending on your budget and you look at your sheet and you're like, I see a minus sign there. What does that mean? That's okay. So this is where now we need to either earn more or cut back. So it's up to you to decide which one is easier for you. If you don't think earning more is an option, you can't maybe go to your boss and ask for a raise, or you can't find a side hustle, or you can't freelance, then this is where we want to cut back. If you are like, okay, I don't want to cut back, I like all the things I have, then we are going to do a video coming up where we talk about some career path options that are easy entry that you don't need to go back to school for or get into debt for. So stay tuned for that. If you're unable to balance your budget by cutting back on variable expenses, you might have to cut back on some of your fixed expenses. So maybe that means downsizing a little bit. I know sometimes we get attached to our home, or maybe we went through a divorce and we got that house in the divorce and we are emotionally attached, but it might be too big for us, or it might be not financially stable. And there comes a time when you have to be honest with yourself, or you leave that. And if that's very important to you, we understand that. So maybe it's restructuring something else. But sometimes something has to give, and we have to come to grips with that. Then we might need to let something go in order to allow something in. So if we want our goals and dreams and we're not obtaining them right now, we need to let go of some of the things that might be holding us back. Maybe it means canceling a streaming service or subscription. I know sometimes we sign up for subscriptions. I do it all the time, where I sign up for a free trial and then I forget to cancel. And then it starts charging you, right? And you're just, oh, it's just $10, or oh, it's just $9.50, or oh, it's just $8.95. But that $8.95 could be going towards paying off your debt. That $8.95 could be reallocated to you being able to afford coffee, right? So just knowing where that money's going. Or like I said, figuring out ways to increase your income. So stay tuned for that. So now that you've created this budget, how do we use it in a day-to-day life? So the only way for your new budget to work is for you to stick to it. So revisit it on a weekly basis is the easiest way. So then as bills come out, you can kind of put that on your budget sheet and have a look and see, was it less? Was it more? Do I have a little extra income now from that tab that I could reallocate somewhere else? You need to monitor and track it. What you don't track, that you can't measure, right? So ideally, you want to track and record your expenses on even a daily or a weekly basis. So as those bills come out, it's just easier to allot maybe 5 or 10 minutes a day to just look through your emails. And when that bill comes out, you just allocate it there as soon as it does. And then that way it makes it easier at the end of the month to do your calculations. This will help you uncover any negative spending or excessive spending in one category, and then you can deduct it from a different category. Typically, it will come out of that fund. So if we're more specific on our expenses and we stick to that budget, then our fund stays the same amount. So that's always a little reward. If you end up with a little extra left over at the month, you can go and do a little online shopping. If you reach your spending limit in any of the categories, the only way this works is if you stop spending. So once you hit your cap, if you hit your coffee cap, then that means that you're drinking coffee from home for the rest of the month. If you reach your spending cap, that means freeze your card and ice if you need to, right? But you need to find a way to stick to that budget. Now, I didn't want to leave you guys just to fend for yourselves. So I did want to give you some ideas and ways to trim your budget as well. Just little ideas to keep in mind, maybe that you didn't think about. So when you review your expenses, like we mentioned, you have your wants and your needs. So be real with yourself and review which one of your expenses are wants and which one of your expenses are needs. And with the ones that are wants, you want to see if there's anything that maybe you don't have to remove, but maybe you can reduce. So could you possibly live with a smaller or maybe an older car? Could you find a lower rent by possibly moving to a different location of the city, but still having the same living amenities? Could you downsize to a smaller home if maybe your kids have moved out or your lifestyle has changed? Maybe you don't need that big of a home anymore. You might actually feel a weight lifted if you're not having to clean such a big home and do all the lawn mowing and all that stuff, right? And then maybe instead of an expensive trip, and I know we haven't had expensive trips in a while, but maybe instead of going on an expensive trip or expensive outing, you can do a stay at home. Maybe a stay-at-home movie instead of going to the movie theater. Let's think maybe even a little smaller. Maybe you're looking at me like, yeah, a vacation would be nice. Even a stay-at-home one would be nice, right? Maybe we're not there. That's okay. But even doing a stay-at-home movie and making your own popcorn instead of going to the movie theater. So every day, put all your loose change in a jar. That can even be a start. I know you're thinking like it's 10 cents and maybe you see 10 cents in your ground and you don't pick it up, but guess what? 10 cents is $1. $10 is $10. $10 is $100, right? It all adds up over time. So if you just collect that and then look at the end of the year, you might have a good chunk of change that you can spend on something. Have your bank remove access to your savings account. It's so easy when our checkings account gets low that we just transfer the money that we put in our savings account into our checkings account and then our savings doesn't grow. So maybe it means kind of restricting yourself there and kind of putting some boundaries. Invest your money into investments so that they're not as easily accessible. We can help you with this depending on where you're located. So you could reach out to us or we could help you find somebody to contact. And we can, as advisors, can actually kind of be accountability partners for you. I know we were talking about finding accountability partners last week, and we can just kind of be like, okay, what are you buying? We don't always have to be invasive. If you don't want us to, you tell us kind of where you want our boundaries to be. But if you want us to, your accountability question, where are you buying? Oh, I'm buying shoes. And we can be like, are you sure you need those shoes? Is it a want? Is it a need? We can kind of joke around there, right? But within 5 business days, if you put it into a TFSA, or I believe it's called a Roth IRA in the States, it will actually be accessible within 5 business days. So it just gives you that time to think on if that purchase is as important as you think it is in the time. Sometimes we get that spontaneity buy, right? And that will kind of stop that. So sometimes making those minimum payments can be the majority of our expenses in a month. So budgeting can also be what stops us from having enough left over or set aside for money to save. So just knowing how to structure those things so that all of our money is not going towards debt. And again, next week, we're going to be going into how to structure our debt and pay things off without having to feel like all our money's gone. And then review your debt payments. There will be a whole video next week on, like I was saying, the strategies on how to structure your debt so that it's still paying off, but all your money's not going towards that debt. So a couple more just simple action tips, because I know I said move. I know a lot of you are like, I can't just move, Sheyi. It's not that easy, right? I understand. And I know I said get maybe an older car, and you're like, I'm not going to sell my car. I just got this car, or I'm not going to sell my car because it's depreciated since I got it. So I owe more than what I paid. So I understand those big purchases and those big ticket items aren't always options for people. So these are easier options, easier entry. So instead of buying a lunch, pack a lunch. Believe it or not, this could save you thousands of dollars per year. Remember, I said that $2 coffee in a year can be up to $1,000. So imagine what that $17 lunch that you buy every day or every other day would add up to. Eat out less. So apart from lunches, eating food prepared at home in general, we spend so much money on groceries. And how often do we throw things away because they went rotten, or we didn't eat them, or what have you, right? So if you're actually using the food that we grocery shop for, then that will help save money down the road. Again, making coffee at home. I'm a coffee lover. I'm not someone that can just give up on my coffee, especially if I had a late night the night before. I would get in a car accident and then I need to reallocate money for a new car. So coffee is important. So you don't have to eliminate coffee, but maybe just make it from home. Even if you just start a couple days a week making it from home. Sell some clutter, or switch to Netflix or Amazon or Prime Video instead of cable. Cable can be a couple hundred or 100 plus a month. But even if you add up all of the subscriptions, it's only like $50 a month. So you could be saving $50 and still be able to watch your TV shows. Yes, you might have to wait until the season's over and it gets uploaded to Netflix, and you might have to la 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 with your friends for a little while, but you'll be able to buy those new shoes, or you'll be able to pay off a debt and feel that relief. And sometimes, you know what, it's only for a little while. Sometimes it's just until one of those credit cards are paid off, and then that alleviates that bill, which means that you can put the money back towards cable. So it doesn't have to be a permanent thing either. Cut some energy bills. So there's lots of ways to just save by being energy efficient. So maybe lowering your thermostat and wearing a sweater. Maybe it's checking on your insulation in your home. Maybe your house insulation isn't good, so it's actually releasing a lot of the heating that you're putting in your home. And of course, you have to be mindful of how much that will cost, but it's an option. Turning up that furnace. If you turn up your furnace, it will reduce your energy uses by up to 10%, which will affect your hydro bill. Maximizing solar energy. Learn to just open those windows and let that heat in when it's the afternoon. Let that sun in. It's vitamin D. It's good for you. Wash your clothes in cold water. and clean that lint dryer, that lint trap in your dryer. This will make your dryer more efficient, so you're not running it multiple times to dry your clothes, and washing on cold water is less energy. Install a low flow shower head. Now I'm all for pressure with my shower. I never like to feel like it's raining, but it's an option, right? It will lower your water bill. Use a light dimmer or a motion sensor. So if you were like the person before where I mentioned sometimes you forget to turn lights off, or you like to have lights on when you're in the house just for the ambiance, get a dimmer switch and you can turn down so you're not using as much power. That will save on your hydro. Shop for insurance. We can help you with this. A lot of people had purchased insurance from the past and they've never reevaluated it, and they could be spending an extra $30 to $100 a month on coverage that might be actually more affordable elsewhere. So we can shop around for you and maybe help you save some money there. And that could be reallocated towards investments or towards your emergency savings. Now, I'm going to strike a nerve here, but stop smoking. That's a very expensive habit. Maybe stop drinking or limit it. Try and start slowly winding down. Maybe only smoke half a cigarette and then put it out and then put it back in the package and smoke the other half. Or get a patch. Maybe a patch is cheaper than the box of cigarettes. With alcohol, maybe just pour half a can and then put the other can in the fridge and pace yourself a little bit more so you can still enjoy a drink, but you're just slowing down. Maybe it is selling your car and using that to pay off a credit card. And for the next little while, walking, busing, biking, or maybe carpooling to work, that can also lower gas expenses. Or look at switching to a gas-friendly vehicle. Now, maybe it won't be the Tesla, but maybe getting like a Camry hybrid or a Civic hybrid or something like that. Again, canceling those unnecessary subscriptions that you don't use. Try to find a free version. Maybe just reduce. Sometimes we get ahead of ourselves and we buy the most exclusive package of something. Maybe it's just cutting down some channels or reducing the packages we have. Plan vacations early. If you do want to go on that vacation, plan it ahead. And whenever you plan something early, it's cheaper. So plan ahead. Embrace DIYs. So maybe you can't afford to have a professional come in and do it, but go to YouTube University and find a way to do it yourself, or call a friend over and have that glass of wine and save on a DIY project and work on it together and have some fun with it. Joke around, make a memory. Prepare your grocery list ahead of time so then you don't end up going to the grocery store, be like, I need that, I need that, I need that. But really it's, I want that, I want that, I want that, right? Buy in bulk. If you buy in bulk, then it lasts longer. Of course, keep in mind that you don't want to be throwing things out. But if things are not perishable, then you can buy like soaps in bulk and laundry detergent and things like that. So you might end up saving next month and that money could be reallocated somewhere else. Buy the generic brand instead of the name brand. I know so often that we get attached to the name brand and that that status of the name brand. I remember when I first moved out of my parents' house, I went shopping with my now fiance, and I was buying grabbing all the name brand stuff and sticking it in our cart. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Let's put this all back. Let me show you something." And we started going through and looking at the prices. So often we don't look at the prices, and the name brands can be double the price of the generic brands. And yes, sometimes they do taste differently. So if you don't like the generic brand, then try an alternative, right? Just try it out. Worst comes to worst, you can go back to the ones that you can't live without, but it's an option. Bring your own bags. Again, 10 cents makes a difference. I know you're like, oh my goodness, Sheyi, like, Jesus, 10 cents. But not only does it save money, but it also helps the environment if you're using fabric bags. So that's also another thing. Look through the coupons. Now, I don't think you need to be a crazy coupon cutter lady, right? But you might find something you're looking for, especially for bigger ticket items. 25% off on a big ticket item makes a difference, right? So on those more expensive items, look and see if there's a coupon for it. Avoid overdraft fees on credit cards. Some credit cards even will increase the interest on you if you miss a payment. So just keep an eye on those, set reminders. A lot of credit cards will let you automate it as well. So you can always automate your payments. Maximize your RSPs. If you're making over $50,000 a year, you can actually get a tax rebate sometimes for contributing to your RSP. So again, it's RSP season right now. If that's something that, and I apologize to people in the States, you're going to be like, RR what? But I believe it's called IRA. And I'm sorry if I'm wrong. I'm not 100% familiar with the states, but if you Google the state's version of an RSP, they'll tell you what it is. But it is a retirement fund. So if you contribute into that, typically you get a tax rebate. So you can use that towards paying off your debt or towards those expenses. Decline mortgage life insurance. If you have personal life insurance, you don't need mortgage life insurance. They won't tell you that, but you don't. And if you do have mortgage life insurance, typically personal insurance is cheaper. And we will be going into this topic down the road as well. I know I keep saying down the road. Remember, trust the process. We have a method to our madness. And potentially start a business. When you start a business, you can actually write off a lot of those expenses that you have, and at the end of the year, get money back in taxes. So you don't have to necessarily make a lot of money in your business for having a side business to be beneficial. So if there's any hobbies that you've been wanting to pick up, try. Even if you make an extra $1,000 and you get to spend that $1,000 on yourself, and that $1,000 is now making you in the plus on your budget, that's worth it, right? So look at some options as far as what you can do for starting a business. If you're looking at that and you're being like, Sheyi, Angie, like, I'm not qualified for anything. I don't have any skills. I've been a stay-at-home mother for years. No one's going to hire me. There are options out there. And if you are looking for options, we can definitely help you with that. So reach out to us and we can give you some ideas. But like I said, we will have a video breaking down a couple options in the near future. So in summary, you got this. It's just taking simple daily steps at a time, doing those little things that will add up into big results. So stick to your budget. I know it can be challenging, but just take it one day at a time. You may feel overwhelmed, you may feel defeated, but this is where having an accountability partner can help. And this will help you reach your financial goals. Remind yourself, this is for me. This is for my financial goals. It's not just to pay off debt. It's not just to pay my expenses. It's not to punish myself. It's for my future. It's for my happiness. It's for my freedom. Think about these big purchases. If you feel like splurging on a non-essential item, does it fit into your budget? Does it fit into your budget? Put that in the back of your mind. And before you grab something, does it fit into my budget? No. Okay. You can also say, okay, I have 10 extra dollars this month. Let me put this in a jar and label it blank big expense and put $10 in there until you add up to that big expense and then go buy it, right? It's all about patience. Rather than making that snap decision, just fall back to that monthly plan and think about it. Is this necessary in my day-to-day life? In 5 years from now, will I even care about this item? Does this value overweight the financial stress it could cause? Think of the small purchases, the coffee, the takeout. Those are small things that are just taking you that little step back from your financial goal. Think about those monthly expenses, the cable, the mortgage, the rent. Are they wants? Are they needs? Avoid going into credit card debt. No matter how much your credit card limit is, it's important to not assume that your credit card money is your money. This is money. This is weight. You have to think of a credit card as a little shackle that's attached to you. And the more money you put in a credit card, it's slowing you down, right? It's not your money. It's the bank's money that they're lending you, but they're going to want it back, right? So don't bank on that as part of your budget. Bank on paying it off as part of your budget. And most importantly, just take it one day at a time. You don't have to plan for the year. If planning for the month is overwhelming, plan for the week. If planning for the week is overwhelming, plan for the day. The goal is to just get you that one step closer in the journey. And that's why we're taking our time. And maybe you're watching these videos and you're like, this is basic. This is so basic. But for somebody else, it's not. And you're going to get to the point where we've reached where you are. And that's when you can join in. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that it's bite-sized amounts so that you can digest it and just work on that throughout the week. And then we can add on and give you something else. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining our video today and learning how to create a budget and the benefits of a budget. I hope that it helped you. Like, comment, subscribe, and let us know if there's anything else that you're curious about as far as a budget. If something wasn't clear, let us know. If you want that template, let us know. If you want an accountability partner, let us know, right? We want to hear from you. And at the end of the day, all of this is for you. So with that, I let you go. I hope you have an amazing evening, and we will see you all same day, same time next week.